All right, great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for showing up today. My name is Jimmy Blake, and welcome to Leveraging Scalable Technology for Small Business Growth. I'm your moderator, Jimmy Blake, even though it says James Blake, and Mario Burgos is our speaker today. I just want to make everyone aware, just take note of the exits in case of emergency. We have an emergency exit in the back, an exit here in the front. We have water in the back, so if you mouth gets dry, if you need some refreshments, there's water in the back. And there's one trash can in the front as well. So safety first. I would also remind everyone to please silence your phones or put them on vibrate, just to be respectful of the presentation. Mario's got a great presentation for you today, so I'm excited to be here with you. And thank you to our sponsors, Wood, Versar, and everyone. And you will get PDHs for this presentation. Just please get your badge scanned at the front. If you haven't gotten it already, just get it scanned at the end of the presentation. And we're going to have questions and answers at the end. If we have time, we have a microphone for questions and answers. So for now, I will pass the mic over to Mario Burgos, who is president and CEO of the Burgos Group. Just a little bit about Mario. He's had 25 years experience in the marketing and operations field. Currently, he provides strategic leadership for the Burgos Group. In this capacity, he has led growth for the Burgos Group from 2 employees to over 150 over the last 8 years. So please welcome Mario Burgos.
Thank you. That was awesome. It's really bad when your moderator is a better speaker than you are. So a little bit more about who I am. In fact, since I'm free here, I will come down. What's interesting about me, I guess, is we do a lot of construction, facilities, operations, support, and logistics, and I don't have experience in any of those things. So part of the way I've been able to do that is obviously hire really, really good people, and then use a bunch of different software that we've been able to use to leverage our growth, and that's part of what this whole presentation is all about. Just a small group. I'd ask normally who you are. Although what I already know is that you are early overachievers because you're 9 o'clock in the morning and not a single one of you is carrying a beer, which is amazing in New Orleans. So I really didn't think anybody was going to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. I thought that was absolutely the worst session. I thought maybe I upset Belle and she put me into this session at this time, only to realize that no, this was not the worst session. The worst session to present would have been 9 o'clock after Halloween, right? So this is actually a better session. Out of curiosity, aside from that, who's small business? Cool. The majority. Great. Government? And any large business? There we go. Okay. So we got a cross-section of folks. That's awesome. So what we're going to talk about here is leveraging technology as a competitive advantage. We're going to talk about the learning objectives. And realistically, this is divided into the 4 pillars that you need to operate your business. So strategy and marketing, operations and finance. And as we go through this, I'm going to be talking about the different technology that we use for this stuff. We're going to start with strategic insights and leadership development. Because for those of you that are small business, and just about anybody, sometimes it's lonely at the top. Who do you talk to? Where do you get your information? When you're really struggling, who can you tell that you're struggling? Because you're usually putting a good face on things. So the cool thing is I'm out of New Mexico. So this is actually what my ride looks like from my house to the office on a regular basis. The nice thing about New Mexico is you have all this wide open space to sit there and think. And in my case, listen. So where do I get my strategic insights? First off, one of the things I believe is that the best leaders are constant learners. Apparently, I'm not alone in that thought, which goes along with every other thought I have, since Harvard Business Review had it as an article. But I thought it first before it was published. So where do I get my stuff? Podcasts, believe it or not. These are some of the podcasts I listen to from a business standpoint. I listen to them religiously. 35 minutes every day driving into work, 35 minutes on the way home, on planes if I don't fall asleep. I'm listening to these. How I built this, has anybody ever listened to that? It's very, very cool if you haven't. Whether you're running a business or you're not running a business, I strongly recommend it. It's put on by NPR. It interviews people, talking everybody from Mark Cuban to, gosh, I forget her name, but she created Spanx. And everybody and anybody in between. And what's really cool about this is you realize that the issues that you're dealing with, whether you're running a business, you're running a business unit, is the same stuff they've had. The ups and the downs, which sometimes feel very, very lonely, they had it. Regardless of how big or how small your business is, the challenges are very similar. So I listen to that. HBR IdeaCast, another one of those things that I listen to for different ideas. Those are about 15-minute segments, so I can listen to 2 on my way in. Entrepreneurial Thought Leadership. Here's what's cool about that. That's from Stanford. And essentially, it's a free Stanford education. So you got all these people paying, it's like $250,000 or something now to attend Stanford for 4 years. And if you're smart, you can listen to Entrepreneurial Thought Leadership for free for an hour. Which I don't know how many of you have ever been involved in your local community. We're talking about economic development in New Mexico. We're always going, why aren't we bigger? Why aren't we better? We need to create entrepreneurs. Secret on that? The amount of information that's out there, we live at the best time ever. And if somebody's not going to go take advantage of that information on their own, they're probably not going to be an entrepreneur because they're not going to take that risk. So this is an opportunity to gather all that stuff. Startup, Gimlet, that was kind of a cool one to listen to. Business Wars covers things like when Netflix and Blockbusters went against each other. Spoiler alert, there's no more Blockbusters. Sorry. In case you were wondering. Crazy Enough to Work is another one I just started listening. The other thing is, so those are all business-related podcasts, right? Things that I listen to from a business standpoint. It's not all business all the time. So critical thinking, that is sort of gone away in our schools because we basically teach to test. And I read somewhere at some point that the best CEOs are not necessarily those who have the highest grades, because they're usually the ones who get other people to do stuff. Right? True. And they surround themselves with people smarter than themselves. But critical thinking. Radiolab has some awesome stuff, completely unrelated to business, but I sit there and I listen to this stuff and I start connecting. And everybody says, hey, we need to be an out-of-the-box thinker. How do you be an out-of-the-box thinker? You get information that doesn't fit in the business box and doesn't fit in other things. So you have that. Because I often like to tell my family just how smart I am, I do listen to You Are Not So Smart as a counter to that, kind of bring it down. That's an awesome thing. Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History, if you haven't heard that, I strongly recommend it. Malcolm Gladwell, has written those books on Tipping Point, blank, all those blank. Awesome podcast. Again, they're mostly about the time of the car ride, 30 to 45 minutes. Planet Money, I'm not an economist. I'm supposed to know something about numbers. They put it in really layman's terms. Freakonomics Radio, it's just a hoot. Again, not an economist, but really good stuff. And then, of course, TED Radio Hour. You can't go wrong with a TED Talk, right? So, news sources. My father asked me one time, all right, so did you see this on the news? I said, I don't watch the news. What? How do you know what's going on? I said, I don't watch the news. I don't need to know for 4 days there's a hurricane coming. However, I do get my news from a bunch of different places. This Morning by Gordon Deal, which is Wall Street Journal. Again, 20, 30 minutes, usually about the time I'm lifting. So I do that at the gym. NPR Politics, because I've been accused of being right-wing. I want to make sure I know what both sides are saying. Then LinkedIn. Who's on LinkedIn? Who's connected to me on LinkedIn? Cool. All right, look around. If you're not connected to me, you should be. No, in all seriousness, LinkedIn has their daily news reports, and those are pretty good kind of blurbs on what's going on. And what do I do with all this stuff? Sample takeaways. So, by the way, this sample takeaway, can you tell what I'm doing with it? So I get this takeaway from a podcast, and I put it on. Anybody identify what that is? Twitter. So I use my Twitter to capture my podcast thoughts, which then connect with other people that have either think the exact same or think absolutely opposite of me. But some of the sample takeaways from these podcasts. Luck only happens when you're actively moving and searching for what's next. This is one of my favorites because I actually fit into it as a child. To understand an entrepreneur, study juvenile delinquents. Both say this sucks and I'm going to do it another way. Paraphrase from an HBR podcast. It's not about cheating work-life balance. It's about cheating values alignment. This was important for me because, again, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a workaholic. People say, well, all you do is work. And that was actually the best way I could explain it to folks. It's not about whether or not I'm working all the time or not. It's about values alignment. Am I able to balance everything the way I want? Not necessarily the way that somebody else thinks it's supposed to be, which goes into if you're a business leader or you're moving up in an organization or running a division. It's not about necessarily what other people think. And sometimes it's easier to get that from a third party. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Another great one. It is not a sign of weakness. It's the greatest sign of strength. Entrepreneurial advice from Kendra Scott. So market research tools, that falls right into market research tools. The Twitter use of that information, and what you'll find is the way we use all this stuff in our company and the way I use it personally, it aligns and it crosses. So FPDS, anybody here from GovWin or any of the other? No? Good. Okay, so I don't spend any money on that stuff. Little backstory is in 2010 we had 2 employees. We have over 150 now. I've never I did test subscriptions to try some of those things, but I really get most of my data for free because that's what those databases are doing, is they're aggregating that data. So when you're starting out, when we were 2 people with $100,000 in annual revenue, we didn't really have $10,000 or $15,000 a year to spend on that software. Now we realize we don't necessarily need it. But what we do use is FBO.gov, which costs me how much? 0. And Outlook, which costs more than 0, but who operates their business without some sort of Microsoft project or Microsoft software at this point? But what you'll see, and it's hard to see in this corner here, is there a pointer thing? Maybe not. But I have 88 opportunities. I have local, I have NAICS codes, opportunities, sources sought, and I actually have the folders in my inbox that go straight to that. So I have rules created. It goes right in every morning. I get my emails. I did promise this would be a real snapshot of inside information. This is actually my search agents. That is actually my inbox. I actually only had 17 unread emails at that point compared to this morning, since I've been here all week, and it's 248 unread emails. So I'm not always that good. But those go in every morning, and I know to go ahead and check those, and I make this the time to do that. Then I ask 2 questions. And this is another reason I don't necessarily subscribe to the other services. When I see something on FBO that I like, I send off a question. Sometimes it's published, most times it's not. I've been on a mission to try and get agencies to go ahead and publish these 2 questions, because with these I can do an amazing amount of research for no cost. I ask the contract officer, even if it's a source is sought, is there an incumbent? And if so, would you please provide me the incumbent's contract number? 70% of the times they do. And that's all public knowledge. There's nothing. In fact, if they don't, usually in the Q&A, that's a question that's been asked 100 different times and it's published in the Q&A. What do I do with that? I go into the FPDS and enter it into the easy search bar. I like easy. And I pull up all these different contract information. In this particular case, it's Burgos Group, so part of the reason that you can't really read it is that's by design, because I don't want you to know what contract now. You can download the slides and you'll be able to read it. But this way I can go in and see. I use it in other times too. It's not just for opportunities. Anybody ever receive an email from somebody saying, hey, I'd like to be a teaming partner with you, and here's my back, right? Do you get that? So what do I do with that? I take that email, I go into, if they're a small business, into the dynamic small business search engine that the SBA has, enter that information, pull up their DUNS number, because that's in there if I can't find it in sam.gov. Sometimes it's easier to do it that way. Go straight into the easy search bar, type in their DUNS number, hit enter, and get to see how many contracts they have. And see what their past performance is. So when they call me up and they say, hey, Mario, I'd really like to partner with you on this NASA opportunity. I know tons of people at NASA. Great. Hold up their information. Then I get on the phone call that, let's get to know each other, dating phone call. Everybody had one of those? Let's have that call. Get on the call and they say, yeah, we know everything about NASA. Really? Because I didn't see you as a prime contractor on any NASA contracts. And, well, I used to work for a company that had a cousin who worked at NASA, and so I think we can go after this. So we do a lot of market research and due diligence that way. On the flip side, when you're a small business and starting out and just bidding stuff, it was really cool where you put your DUNS number in and nothing comes up, and now pages and pages of stuff will come up. So try it with ours. Other uses of FPDS. So I just talked about competition, analysis, teaming, partners. So on a competition and analysis thing, one of the things that we end up doing is opportunities that we're interested in looking. When we take that incumbent information, we go ahead and type that in, learn what they're doing. More importantly, we not only find out about that contract, but we look at the incumbent's information because they're playing in our sphere, and we put their DUNS number in, and then we research what all other contracts they have, because not only do we want to know what they're doing and how they're winning and where they're getting it from, what amounts they're using for bids and how they performed on the contract, which we can really tell from FPDS. The other thing that we do is figure out what other contracts they have, because maybe we should be marketing to that customer as well ahead of the thing hitting FBO.gov. Agency needs. So we see the contracting office, or we see the contracting officer, because you can then click on those opportunities and see that listing, research what other stuff that their name is coming up on. It's an amazing tool, and it costs us how much?
$0.
What, you're not paying your taxes?
Oh.
It's prepaid. You're on the prepayment plan. So we already paid. But yes, it will cost your business $0 because we've already paid for it. And then partners, due diligence, I talked to you about some of that, the ways that we go ahead and do that and looking up information. All right, so that's looking up information. What do you do with all that information when you collect it? CRM, who's got a CRM platform? Okay, Salesforce? Anybody? No? Okay, others. So we use Zoho CRM, and we did that. We started it went into 2009 because we started bidding all this stuff on FBO or tracking all this stuff and thought to ourselves, holy moly, we can't keep track of all this stuff. And yes, there are some limitations to FBO.gov. It's very cool to click, watch this, but that list gets really, 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 really long very, very fast. It's great if you're an 8A, a service-disabled veteran-owned company, or a hub zone to respond to sources sought. But if you respond to dozens of sources sought a year or more, which you should, especially if you're in a set-aside area, then how do you track who you responded to? What's your follow-up on that? Are you coming to these conferences and looking at which contract officer did I send it to, or which program office did I send it to, and are they attending? And the only way to do that is have it in some sort of customer relationship management software. When you hear and you picked up how many cards, dozens, hundreds of cards, how are you capturing that? Where are you putting that information? This is one area, especially if you're going to go pursue stuff. So the cool thing is, this costs, this is like the repeat theme here. It costs how much for free users? $0. Free edition. It is a complete knockoff of Salesforce, as far as I could tell in 2009. I haven't looked at Salesforce since, because in 2009, Salesforce, I think, wanted to charge me $1,000 a user or per seat or something like that. And this was free. For $49 a month, 2009 we were a $100,000 business. Last year we did $22.5 million. We're larger this year. I spend $48 a month. So pretty inexpensive. Again, promise to show you real stuff. This is not a customized pipeline report, but it is a pipeline report that, well, it's actually somewhat customized, and we changed the names. So the heading, so I've got FBO watch, no decision, sources sought qualification, solicitation canceled. I hate when that happens. RFQ submitted, awarded won, lost to competition. You'll notice the awarded and won is a very thin line compared to lost to competition. That is because our win rate is about 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 contract, and I'm okay with that. How do I know my win rate? Because I've been tracking this stuff for 9 years. So I know how many proposals I need to get in. I know what revenue dollars I need in my pipeline, which all comes out of this. In order to hit whatever my revenue goals are the next year, I know what my cost is for proposals, but we track all of that in here. So that's kind of the internal marketing side of stuff. Marketing outreach. So externally, favorite app combination. Again, show of hands who's on LinkedIn, not necessarily connected with me. Okay, if you're not on LinkedIn, you should be, no matter what your job is. I'm an early adopter of technology, relatively speaking. So I was on LinkedIn in 2004. In 2004, LinkedIn had 500,000 users. So I'm in the first 500,000 people on LinkedIn. I was on another one too. I don't remember the name of it. It went away. The cool thing was during the recession, you could tell every time, well, that wasn't a cool thing, but every time somebody lost a job, you could tell because their LinkedIn profile was updated. Every time somebody's unhappy with their job, you can tell because their LinkedIn profile is updated. All of a sudden, there's all the awards, what they're doing, the bullet points. So those are, you meet somebody, you want to know if they're happy or they're not happy. LinkedIn's an amazing amount of marketing intelligence that way. It's also a great way to stay connected. If you're connected to me, usually I now attend these things and somebody says, yeah, you're blowing up my LinkedIn profile with your updates on this and that, and I just saw you got this award and you got that award. That's amazing. I'm going to get into that in a little bit in a sec. But the combination is with Evernote. So originally, early adopter, I used CardMunch. CardMunch got bought by Evernote. Evernote got, I think, acquired or has some sort of partnership with LinkedIn. But the cool deal is you take your phone out, you get somebody's business card, you pull up Evernote, you take a picture. I think I spend $9.99 a month for it. It used to be $9.99 a year, but the price went up. However, take a picture. Go to this conference. We all walk away with, I should have saw you before, dozens, if not hundreds of business cards. Scan them. And if they're on LinkedIn, 9 times out of 10, their LinkedIn picture is going to pop up. So I actually have pictures of people on my LinkedIn, in my contacts right away. It's synced because we connected on LinkedIn. And when I scanned it, I just hit save, and it sends off an automatic LinkedIn invite. I do it in real time. So I met you. Sometimes if you're really, really important, then I met you on the spot, and I'll go ahead and send it off right away. Everybody else, it usually takes me about a week. At one point, I had my son interning for me, so he did all my stuff, and because I allowed him to log into my accounts. He got tired of that, and no longer works for me. Has no desire to work for me ever again. But apparently, that whole data entry, I told him it was a good opportunity. He didn't believe me. But that combination is amazing. Go a little bit further into this. Insanely useful networking. You take that picture. We spend, on average, to attend this conference, between your hotel, your travel, your attendance, and it is one of the best conferences out there. $1,000, $2,000 easily, right? Walk away to a dozen, 2 dozen, 5 dozen business cards, depending on how many people you're handing out. I mean, I think sometimes I walk away with over 100. And then what do you do with them? 90% of the people that attend these things do nothing. They go sit in a box, or they sit on the side. I intend to do this at some point, and they don't. Take this picture, that's what it looks like. There's a picture that comes up right next to it. The person's name is updated. More importantly, from a LinkedIn standpoint, when they change jobs, or they move, or they go someplace else, that's updated for you. So even if your contacts are not, it is. How does this translate into external marketing? Articles and activities. So I have, and that number is now over, I think, 2,200, because I've been going to a lot of conferences in the last couple of weeks. But 2,078 followers, or I think I have 2,200 connections. I do not accept a connection from anybody I haven't met. So this is literally people I've met, and 90% of them are SAME. Your network grows exponentially when you do it this way. One of the hardest things we all have, right, is to stay top of mind for somebody. What does this cost me? I have premium, so I think it cost me $9. Seems to be the other magic number. $9 a month or something like that. But you put all this stuff in. Network grows exponentially. One thing leads to another. Okay, real data. There's a really good-looking guy in South. So there's a post, and you'll see Society of American Military Engineers. They actually, it ties into the SAME Small Business Conference Journey stuff. I help them, they help me. It works out for everybody. That one had 2,244 views of that article. If you click on those views, then you get who's viewing. So 14 people from the U.S. Navy. That's pretty awesome. In fact, that's the highest amount came from the U.S. Navy. Why? Because I probably met somebody, I'm connected to somebody else. More importantly, if there's somebody that retired out of the Navy, and this probably works this way, they retired out of the Navy, they've got a job with a large or small business, and they're marketing to the Navy, and so they're connected to all their friends. And so when they saw something and they liked it or they viewed it, that ends up going throughout their other friends' feeds as well, or the other colleagues. So 14 people from the Navy, 149 people who have salesperson. That usually means my phone rings a lot. But the next group is 112 that are CEOs. So those are the partners that I'm looking for working with in the future. 502 people from New Mexico, but 87 from DC, 40 from Denver. The little red circle on the bottom says Louis Berger. Why? Because I'm about to graduate the 8A program in December, and guess who my mentor in the All Small Mentor Protege is? Yeah, I'm making it easy. Louis Berger. So how did that happen? Met them 5 years ago at an SAME conference, connected with them. Somebody connects with somebody else, connects with somebody else. Every time I connect with more and more of their folks. Every time my awards or whatever comes up on a news feed, or we just landed a contract, or whatever we're putting in that news feed, it's popping up on Louis Berger and everybody else's thing. And they're like, wow, this guy's front of mind. So one thing led to another. Truly believe that. Operational tools. So we'll move on from marketing. 2014, I bought an electrical company. I don't have electrical experience, but I bought one. So we bought a 35-year-old electrical company. And that 35-year-old electrical company was a mom-and-pop shop, had 26 employees, about $4 million in revenue. I could tell you about leverage buyout, but that's another presentation. I got to save something for next year. However, anybody's ever done a merger acquisition deal? Okay, a few in the back. All right. So what ends up happening is everybody likes it when it happens, and then everybody doesn't like each other usually after the fact, especially on the smaller. I saw some big hands go up. But at the end of the day, we bought this company from a guy who's an electrician for 35 years. He started at 3:30 in the morning. They didn't tell us that when we were doing our due diligence. But he started at 3:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, worked till, what they told us is he's never here past 4. That's because he started at 3:30 in the morning. However, he said, well, all right, you're going to come in and you're going to bid this program. And you're taking over my electrical company. You don't know anything, Mario. He'd like telling me that. You don't know anything. You are going to fall flat on your face. All the things that need to happen, you don't even know what needs to happen. And I said, well, why don't you tell me, Jeff, what needs to happen? And he's like, you got to pull permits. You have to have a pre-construction meeting. You have to figure out if there's temporary power pole service required. You have to figure out if there's main service requirement. If you have to do all that stuff, you need to contact CenturyLink if there's fiber involved. And I said, you know what, Jeff? Why don't you just write down everything you don't think I know? He loved doing that. It was very therapeutic. So he wrote down, he actually came in with 12 pages, handwritten, of everything that he was 100% sure I was not going to do. Absolutely confident. And I said, cool. And then I took all those 12 pages, and I found a project management, task management system called Asana. Asana cost me $0. Cost me $0 for users. I did finally upgrade, went to $1,000, but that's all it cost me for this project management system. And I took everything he said. So I took contract execution down to, and you'll see it. And again, this is actually this is a live document. NTP, notice the proceed is executed. Receive signed contract, review sign, send signed contract to the customer. And on the right hand side, you'll see the little circles. Those are the team members within our own company that we assign to those different tasks. The cool thing about Asana is you can assign a task to how many people? Any guess? So 5. Any other guesses? 1. So 1 is the correct answer, and the reason is, if you want a task done, only one person can do it. So if you actually want a task done, it needs to be assigned to one person. If it's going to be multiple people need to be involved in that task, well then it can workflow from one person to the next, but it's a separate task. So somebody's going to review it, and somebody else is going to write it. And yes, we have collaborative on writing, but realistically, no, you're going to write this section, and I'm going to write this section, and I'm going to write this section. But all of those things, create a project file, because I wanted to make sure our back office understood how we were going to create these files. Electrical permits, everything down to CenturyLink, confirmed permit issuance has been saved in the folder, temporary power poles, and this list actually goes on and on and on. There's subcategories. And you'll see this is a construction project template is what it's called up in the top left-hand corner. We use this for every single thing. When you go from 2 employees to 165, what's the most important thing? Everybody asks me the same question. How do you ensure quality stays? And the way you ensure quality is you have processes and procedures that are well-defined. Everybody in the government knows that, right? You have a process. But they also have to be easily followed. Imagine if the FAR actually just had this. I could just go in, did I comply? You don't have to imagine, because that's what we do with our compliance direction. This is construction. We took the same tool and said, okay, we got a contract, and we have this compliance. So every year, we have to follow all these compliance things. Did anybody forget to do vets? We put all that in Asana as a task. So this way, and it's assigned to somebody. And when they leave the company, nobody ever leaves me, but you're off in it. All right, when they leave the company or they move on, we just take that Asana and we assign it to somebody else. And all their tasks move over. And the thing cost me like nothing. Awesome deal. Again, light version, free, premium version, $9.99 a month, enterprise. We're 150 employees, not every employee is in it, because not every employee has all those tasks. So it's really those who are in charge of project management and execution and their supporting staff. File sharing. When I first started, we used file sharing through Dropbox. There was a problem, and I understand Dropbox has now fixed that, but at the time, one of the problems was you couldn't have all these subfolders and turn around and share those subfolders across the company without whoever had it at a higher level. You had to share that same level was automatically already shared. So we needed something where we could share one file within a file without sharing everything. And so Ignite was one of the solutions we went up to. We are, again, running a $22.5 million company. It's all cloud-based. I don't have an internal IT person. I never have. I don't have to update it. This is always updated. I'm on the road. I can be on an airplane, which I was. Somebody sends me an email and says, hey, somebody needs access to this folder file, or they send it to my brother or whoever else we make as an owner of a given file, and we can do that. I just added 5 more users. So out of 165 people, we only have about 45 people that are on this system that need to use it on a regular basis. But we're using, and this is 9 years of information, because we've actually, 9 years of information, we have 525 gigs of data. We do construction, so that includes all the construction plans and everything that we've downloaded. We have checked for cybersecurity compliance, because we have that requirement, and this works. We're using that little bit, that blue circle, is all we're using of 10 terabytes of data. It is interesting to watch how your organization grows. So in 9 years, what you can't see there is we have 366,000 files is how we run our business. And it is 60,000 folders. So we have folders and subfolders. A lot of that is historical information. Keep that data information in mind, because that ties into this overall presentation when we get towards the end. Ignite costs $8 per employee that uses it. $15 per employee per month on the business side, and then enterprise is where you can start negotiating. Document processing. We were using DocuSign. We just changed off, but we did use DocuSign. The way we switched to DocuSign, if you don't know about that, is I bought a house, and when I executed my house, the realtor sent me DocuSign, and I just clicked, and that's how I signed all my contracts. I thought, wow, this is amazing. We need to pull this into our office. So we pulled it into our office because we needed POs signed off by field superintendents and project managers, and we needed it to workflow automatically, and DocuSign worked really well for that. I don't mean to slam DocuSign, but they've now had an IPO. They had an initial public offering. They've been bought. They're on the market. Their price just quadrupled. So what do? We switched to, surprisingly, Adobe was actually cheaper, and so we switched to Adobe. Whichever software you use, the bottom line is you need to be able to do it from anywhere at any time. It needs to be really simple. What I liked about DocuSign, what I liked about Adobe is I didn't have to bring anybody in for training, and we're constantly growing, so I can't have programs that are complicated with regard to training. Costs were $10 for personal, $25. Business Pro, $40 per user. I'm not a user. We don't pay for me as a user. We pay for the people that are creating the templates, and that's a very limited pool. We processed over 15,000 documents last year utilizing DocuSign, and we're not that huge of a company. But HR uses it. We use it for POs. We use it when we sign contracts. Not with the government, because they want to see a contract they think is wet signing, but it's not. Fleet management. We're all over the place. When I bought that electrical company, one of the guys, the owner said to me, hey, you got to be here. The reason I come in at 3:30 is because at 5, I need to see who rolls in. You need to see who rolls in. He says, yeah, because I need to see if they're going to go to the job site. And then the first 2 hours of every day, I stop by the job site to make sure that they didn't stop for burritos. You know, they have these things, you can put an adapter on a truck and just manage it and follow it. He said, yeah, everybody will quit if you do that. So but we did it. We used Zuby, which was a residential or consumer version because it was the least expensive. They have now added services that allow you to in the right-hand corner, they'll actually tell me if the maintenance light went on in that truck and all those things. And that is relatively inexpensive. I think per vehicle it's $170 a month. It used to be a little bit less. But I get to track my vehicles all over the country as we're doing that. We did have, implementation-wise, we had a meeting. We kicked everything off. We did the electrical division first and said, hey, listen, I know everybody here is trustworthy, gets up in the morning, gets in the truck, goes straight to the job site. Nobody clocks in and then goes and gets a burrito or pulls off to the side of the road to have a conversation with somebody unrelated to work with the company cell phone. We know that when you clock in, you're working because you're being paid hourly. So we're going to put GPS on the truck because we want to make sure anybody we hire in the future is as honest as you. Because anybody not doing that, anybody cares that I'm monitoring? Nobody cares. Okay, it doesn't leave this room, except for the fact that it's being videotaped, I guess. But it doesn't leave this room. We don't actually monitor that data. So it's more prophylactic. Because we can't sit there, I don't have the people and tools to sit there and watch every truck. However, we have used it in some pretty cool ways. We had a service call. We billed for an hour. The customer called up irate. You charged me for an hour to change a light bulb. Electricians said, yeah, it was a light bulb up on a street light, and they were there for an hour because nobody could find the location. No, they were not. They were there for 5 minutes, pulled the GPS data, and saw the truck going around for an hour at each location to figure out which light, because they called us at night and said the light's out, sent somebody in the morning, and there's no lights on, and nobody could remember which light didn't have power. But that was an hour. But we were able to use the GPS data to do that. We're also able to use it if there's an accident, if somebody calls and says somebody's not driving, see where the truck's supposed to be. And we still get phone calls, which people think we're doing from the GPS data, where somebody will say, because it has our name on the side. I don't know why guys insist on parking in front of the bar when you have a name on the side of the truck, but we will get calls on that. They think we're monitoring the data. $179 a year for a device. Phone systems, we use 8x8. When I had previous companies, you had the whole phone system thing. This is all voice over IP. We plug it in. That's it. We're good. There's no programming. There's nothing else needed to do, or minimal programming on the phone. We just moved offices. We moved from one of our offices, because we have multiple, from 1,400 to 5,000 square feet. We unplugged the phone. We plugged in the phone. That's it. Internet was on. My brother is in New Jersey, but he helps manage projects in New Mexico and in California. We just put 2 different phones, or 3 different phones, one with a California number, one with a New Mexico number, and one with his New Jersey number on his desk, because people want to call local. Okay. Human resources. Zoho. Zoho has actually not just CRM, we use Zoho Recruit. If you go to our website, on the right-hand side, you'll see career opportunities. That is actually built in. That ties back into an applicant tracking system. Another question I always get is, you've been growing rapidly. How do you find people? Okay, in our applicant tracking system, on the day I created this, which was the day that Jimmy told me, when are you uploading your proposal or your presentation? But the day I put this up, we had 15,679 applicants in our tracking system. We don't get rid of those. We keep all those folks. We reconnect with them. When we have new opportunities, we go back and filter through. Everybody's in our system. That is one of the ways that we're able to go ahead and find people when we need them. We go back and look at somebody that applied for a job that we didn't hire or applied for a job, but they weren't quite right for that, and they may be right for something else, and we can do all of that within this database system. Zoho costs $22.50, $45 a month, professional per user, I believe. That's what I pay. Again, we're running a company with 165 employees, 15,000 people in our database system, and I pay $45 a month for it. Financial tools. We did use QuickBooks. We're still using QuickBooks to this day. We have had time and material contracts, still on QuickBooks. Costs were very low. Obviously, QuickBooks has data you can pull up and see what our... Actually, I didn't put up my information. That's a template. But you can see what your expenses are. They have some pretty cool benchmarks by industry. Not a perfect fit, but it gives you an idea. Costs were very little. When we first did it, we did online QuickBooks, which at that time they were trying to push so it was $0 cost. And we did that because one guy was in New Jersey, one guy was in New Mexico, and we both wanted to log in because we're brothers, so we don't trust each other. No, we did. But we wanted to collaborate. And DCA compliant, we did a plugin called T-Sheets, so we can do our timekeeping. The cool thing is T-Sheets also, when they clock in on their phone that we gave them, has GPS tracking as well, so we get to double check that way. T-Sheet cost for one user was $0. As we've gone up, it costs us $4 per user per month, but it is a way to be compliant. We are now large enough and we want to do some other things that we can't really do in QuickBooks, so we have moved to Foundation. So those are, we hit financial, we hit operations, we hit marketing, and leadership. Closing thoughts on this, and we'll open for questions. The cool part about all of this is it was scalable. I needed something in every case that was scalable. I'm not a big believer in recreating the wheel. And I already told you, I'm not an expert in all the things that we do. I hire experts in the things that we do. I surround myself with experts. I team with experts. I joint venture with experts. But I'm not the expert on that side. What I am is a big believer that somebody's already come up with something that I haven't thought of yet. And so when I have a problem that's presented to me, like 12 handwritten pages from an electrician on how to run my business, there's got to be a way to organize that. And in each way, I've been able to find something utilizing Google. So, and in each thing, the measure for me was, is it scalable? Will it cost me today less what I can afford, which in the beginning was $0 or $9 a month, and can I just keep ramping it up? I can tell you right now, because we've done the cost analysis, it is still cheaper, because people say, yeah, but it gets really expensive as you climb up. It is still cheaper than maintaining a server using our cloud-based solution. It is still cheaper doing the plug-in approach than having somebody customize CRM. And most of the time, the stuff that we're downloading is designed to be very user-friendly. Is it perfect? No. It is absolutely not perfect. And the reason it's not perfect is because the reason people have enterprise systems is so that all those different systems speak to one another. Our financial and our operational and what I'm getting from leadership doesn't track into HR. So nobody knows. If I tell everybody to listen to a podcast a week, we don't have a way of tracking that automatically because it's not all in one system, as opposed to if they logged into an HR portal and clicked on a podcast and we could document it somehow that way. However, we are collecting data. So we're a data-driven organization. 600 and some odd thousand files in the organization. 15,000 applicants. All the driver information with regard to traveling from point A to point B. Where is that really important? AI is around the corner, right? It's already in use in some places. AI is great as long as you have all the information in data format. If you have no data format, and we don't have somebody to monitor the stuff right now, I already told you we're doing that prophylactically in some places. So we don't have that, but AI will solve that. I'm a big believer of that, because as long you'll be able to take the data, and we can already do it in some ways, and as long as you have databases, you can turn around and take that data and start analyzing it, and better yet, you can have a computer doing the analytics for you. I only actually covered a handful of the different software solutions we have. I have Blink, which is it was a residential use thing. Costs, I think it's an Amazon company now. What isn't? And it puts a camera on. So when we had break-ins, I had 3 Blink cameras installed in our site. Also because I'm not on site, and so I can turn around and I get an alert when somebody's there after hours. I have caught theft that way. AccuBid, we use multiple estimating softwares. AccuBid for electrical, ForClicks, ties into RS Means, Gordian for construction, as well as other software tools that we utilize. There is no more time other than taking questions, but that is that. So, questions? Yes, sir.
Excellent presentation.
Thanks.
Enjoy your thoughts on all of this. Could you elaborate on how you use LinkedIn to market and to spread the word about the company?
Okay, absolutely. So a couple things to know about me is before I went into federal contracting, I actually owned a marketing communications firm. I did advertising, which I had no background in either. But the important part of that is I had people pay me a lot of money for advertising and designs and logo redesigns, and we're going to rebrand and all this stuff. And I'm a big believer of social media and word of mouth, which at the time people were not quite embracing. Now everyone's saying, hey, you need to have on this. One of the ways that we use it is the awards. If you come to our office, you'll see awards all over the place. If you go on my profile, you'll see awards all over the place. Some people might think, wow, that guy has a really big ego. He needs to put his awards up all over. That's true. But that aside, the more important thing is third-party validation. So we meet at conferences. Show of hands, how many people shook hands with somebody, heard about their company, and the person on the other side finished telling you about their company and finished with, and my company sucks, so don't work with us. Anybody? Nobody told you that? Everybody tells you, my company is great. We're awesome. We are the leaders in our field. Whether they have 1 person or 100 people, we're better than everybody else. Okay, that really means nothing when I say it. It means a whole lot when Sal's giving me an award that says it, and I can put it on LinkedIn, and that reinforces. And then when we're on the fastest growing list for this list or that list, or we're best company to work at, so you use it for employee recruitment, especially now, all of those things get on your LinkedIn profile, and it's somebody else saying it. And when you put it on LinkedIn and connect with it, that's advertising. More importantly, one of the things that misses is, this is a good conference. If you're in AAC environment and you're interested in doing business with DoD or other government agencies, or you're already doing business with those. If you're not in any of it, and there's some periphery to that, but facilities, operations, etc. But overall, that's your focus. The mistake is, I get phone calls all the time. Somebody says to me, "Hey, so and so base, Holloman Air Force Base, we're printing their magazine. We see that you have work at Holloman Air Force Base," because they went on FPDS and pulled out the data that sees I have contracts. "We want you to buy an ad." I don't need to advertise to all of Holloman Air Force Base. I do need to advertise to the people that are interested in what I provide. And social media, when you connect with people, those are people that are in the same realm that you are. It's that whole long tail. I don't put, and I don't know why people put on LinkedIn, "Hey, my kid just graduated high school." Cool, that's Facebook, guys. That's not LinkedIn. Or, "I'm so proud of my husband or wife." That has nothing to do with professional, or, "We just got back from Fiji." Okay, that's Facebook, guys. That's not LinkedIn. LinkedIn is for business, and when you use it that way, you can also control the message. The other part of it is all the news stories. This is a funny story. We have the Biz Journals, which is a national publication, but each city has their own Biz Journal. So you have Albuquerque Business First. I'm always on their list. Then the account execs always call me to buy ads. I don't buy ads. I say, "Why don't you buy ads?" I say, "I don't buy ads because what am I doing? I'm handing you a card. You're going to go search for me. You're going to look on LinkedIn, see who I'm connected to, put my name in Google, look up what people are saying about my company. Nobody pulls up my ad. It does me no good. It doesn't help me create teaming relationships. Doesn't help me create partnerships. LinkedIn does, as do other social media sites. So the cool thing about SAME is you start off with professional contacts, you work together, or you just see each other year after year, and you become true friends, right? I mean, we all connect with people that we're not looking to get anything, and we just connect. Then you may connect on Facebook, because that's a friend, as opposed to just somebody business-wise. And then all of that connects to, and most importantly is you stay top of mind. And if you're not top of mind, I mean, there's 4,000 people at this conference, right? So how do you differentiate yourself from the other 4,000?
And the other piece of it, I am LinkedIn, Mario on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, actually.
So she's actually a friend.
Yeah, I was, when it said Jacobs, and there was 8 people, I'm one of them. But I want to see what he's winning and what he's doing. And when I scroll through my feed, I see it. I click on it, I read it, I like it. I have 2,000 people I'm LinkedIn with. Those 2,000 people who don't know Mario see it when I'm going to put it. They do. So then it just
Expands.
Yeah.
Within the circle of ABC.
Right, because we're in the same field.
But this isn't the only thing that I do. So I'm an AGC, I'm an ABC, I'm to NDIA. So that each one of those circles works, and they're all relevant.
Okay. Thank you, answer my question.
Cool.
So congratulations on growing the company.
Thank you.
3 people to 160 lakh. So what kind of tools that you use to protect your time as a CEO? Right, a lot of times, we are responding, rapidly growing, but unless you can transform the way you think and protect your time, your time is the most valuable thing. So what kind of tools do you use so you're focused on the bigger picture?
So I'm really, really selfish. I only like to do, my brothers actually said, all you do is the stuff you like to do. And the way I protect my time is I hire people to do all the stuff I don't like to do. So when I find myself doing a bunch of different things, and in the beginning I didn't have that option. But as we keep growing, and yes, then my time actually becomes more valuable because in a leadership position, my time translates to the ultimate growth and operations of the company. Whether I'm hiring our future leaders, or I'm creating a team, or connecting with teaming partners, creating teaming relationships. And what I look at, again, data-wise, I look at the 200 plus emails that I may get in 2 days or 3 days and go, okay, which of these emails do I really not need to deal with? And who is it that I'm executing on Ignite when we're hiring new people now all the time? It used to be, we were only adding somebody every once in a while. Now we're adding 5 people a day. Do I need to hire somebody or change the way that we're doing who's allowed to authorize additional users of a given folder? And then, poof, that work goes away. The POs, how many POs are coming through? How many of my emails are POs sign off? Okay, is there a better way for me to do that? Yes, I want a 1/1 check. So I don't want anything going out the door without a 1/1 check. We are still small enough that I sign all checks, either myself or my brother. But I know that there's been at least 1/1, 2 different people, not direct reports. Be hard for them to collude, to work against us in some way. There's no connection. They're signing off on one another. But that's another thing. Okay, now I got 2, so I don't need to see every one of those POs. Maybe I only want to see the stuff that's over $10,000, or I only want to see this. I still sign every contract. At some point, either we'll hire somebody else that's legal that then expedites all of that, which we had at one point. I still would catch things. But that simplifies. I hire people that I trust and that are smarter than me for whatever it is I'm hiring. So if it's going to be for contract review, I got us to where we are. I'm going to hire a lawyer that I have the confidence and faith, and that's their specialty for contracts. So then when it comes to me, I might look for 2 or 3 things, and I'll say, hey, raise it, but I'm no longer spending the time reading all of that document. That's the only way to scale. And ultimately, the only way to get stuff off your plate is you got to hire people that are smarter than you and trust. So what you see in most small businesses, and we saw it when we acquired, you see business owners that set themselves up as the smartest guy in the room. This guy had everybody shook. He's brilliant. He made a ton of money. Never went to college. Had millions before we even bought his company. Had sold us his company because it was his legacy. He could have just shut it down and be just as fine. In fact, he financed half the sales. So that he didn't need the money. But his company, about a year into it after we bought it, he looked at the 2 people that we put in charge and said, I don't know why I sold it to this guy who's not an electrician If I would have had guys like you, I could have kept running the company. He had them. They already worked there. I didn't hire them. He did. The difference, though, is, in that case, it's not I want it off my plate. It's I don't know how to do it. He knew how to do it. So he was doing the estimating. He was doing the project management. He was doing the scheduling. Everybody came in the morning because he wanted everybody to tell him what they did at the end of the day, where they left the project. The guy's brilliant. He could run 25 projects and tell you, okay, tomorrow you're going to do this, this, and this. He knew everything inside out, and I don't. But that's why we've been able to scale it. So we took a $4 million company with 26 employees, that division, and it has over 55 today, 4 years later, and it's doing about $8 million. So you get stuff off your plate by hiring somebody to do what's on your plate.
So do you have like a virtual assistant or a personal assistant?
I don't. I don't. Although my brother would say nothing stays on my plate for more than 3 seconds, so I guess I have a company full of assistants. Don't tell me that. I have a company full of people that do what I don't want to do.
You said you never hired an IT person, but who's your app manager? Who's the 1-800 help desk when your electrician out in the field can't get his Adobe to work to sign the sign-off sheet? I mean, it just seems that so many dispersed apps, somebody's got to understand how they all work and be able to daily out and something like that.
So, and a lot of this was scalable to today. So now we have an external IT consulting company because, again, it was I'm paying to run all of that stuff. And they send somebody in to program when we add new tablets and everything else, or new phones to have the apps on there, and to give people. And because I got tired of people calling me and saying I forgot my password.
Right.
Seriously, how do you do that? So there's an app. They forget their password to that app. That's a lockbox for all their other. I'm telling you, I can prove it. So the answer is we actually hired, and originally it was, I think it's $30 per user, $27 per user per month is what we ended up going with. They're on call, not 24/7 because we're not working 24/7, but I think it's 12 or 14 hours, 7 days a week. And I am now up to $1,500 a month, so I'm still not, or maybe a little more, I'm still not at the same level as if I was trying to hire internal IT support. And they're dealing with the staffing. And we've done that with all of our stuff as we've continued to grow. I have not gotten rid of where I'm the admin right now. So I haven't given them, partly for cybersecurity issues. They don't work for me direct. I'm not hiring those employees, or somebody that I trust is not hiring those employees. So I haven't given them access at the admin level. But we are now starting to give people owner access at a folder level, which has subfolders, and that's working. Yes?
2 questions. First, jumping on his social media, LinkedIn, do you look at percentages of what you post as far as like quotes from podcasts? You know, how many times you post that? How many times you talk about business development? How many times you talk about awards you won, business accolades?
So yes, I'm very data-driven. Stuff with pictures always goes through the roof compared to stuff without pictures. Twitter, I don't understand the value of Twitter, but I use it to capture thoughts. I have 300, 400 people, I guess, that are following me on Twitter. I do get likes. It is interesting when I take somebody that spoke on, the CEO of a $1 billion company on how I built this. If they have a Twitter account, I tag it because I'm giving them credit because it's their quote, and I'll connect to their and then they like it and forward it. Those have been a handful that have gone through the roof, which is an interesting way to reach out and get on the radar of somebody else. I've read books of when we have a speaker at a conference and then they have a book that they're giving away that you buy, and I read something that I like, and I'll turn around and put that on Twitter, and then that person will thank me for doing that, and then all their people thank. When I was in the news for building a fence or talking about building a fence in California, there were radio hosts with Twitter accounts that were for it or against it, and that raised up a huge amount of awareness. So I track all that. I will also tell you that hiring people, job openings, creates an amazing amount of website hits. And what's cool is those people move from job to job to job. So they're looking for a job for BD or something. They don't work for you, but they're checking out your company, and then they go work for somebody else. And now they know about your company because they saw it, or they connect with you on LinkedIn. So all that works. So I do track it. LinkedIn for me is, obviously that's why it got its own slide, as opposed to Twitter and Facebook, which I don't really use for business, although we have a Facebook website for the business. I can tell you that was a downside. We said, yes, we're building a wall, because I was on CNN and Fox News saying that. And so right now, Burgos Group on Facebook has like a rating of 1 star, because 3 people decided they didn't like that I was doing that. But that's the data stuff. Yes?
I came a little late, so if you mentioned this, I don't want to answer it, but how do you, since all of your information is now discoverable, if you have a claim or a lawsuit, how do you manage email content, and how do you manage saving emails?
So how do I manage email content? I do it contrary to every legal advice I've ever received. So I don't archive stuff. I archive it, but I don't delete it. My brother worked for a Fortune 500 company, and they had a policy that anything over 2 years old was deleted because it comes back and haunts you in discovery.
What about your other 170 plus employees? Because
Same
your
deal.
superior says you're responsible as your own company for your employees. So I don't know if you have like do's and don'ts with emails for them. This is, you limit your emails to this amount of content, otherwise we don't call.
Yeah, and we tell them we can monitor. Yes, is the short answer. We have written policies and procedures and things you're not supposed to be doing. And does anybody follow those?
No.
We tell people that we're monitoring your email accounts. We tell people that on Ignite, you have your public folder, and everybody gets a private folder. And when they're hired, we tell them that private folder is called private, meaning go do whatever you want on it within the guidelines of operating within the company guidelines. But it's not really private, because at any time I can go in and look at anything that's on any folder that you're saving, and you should know that. And yet, we've caught people, turning down business and sending it off to their wife's company because they thought it would, and they saved it in a private folder. And how did we find that? Because we were terminating them because they weren't meeting quality and everything else. And then you go in and say, well, what's in their email account in their private folder? And you, oh my gosh, you were doing this. And they sit across from you, I don't understand why you're terminating me. So legally, the real question you're asking is, if I worried about every cybersecurity threat, I try to do my best to mitigate risk. If I worried about everything that's in an email account, if I worried about every way that a contract could go wrong, I'd be working for you as opposed to running my own company. So at the end of the day, I don't know how you mitigate all those risks, and I don't know how you grow and do that, which is also part of the reason that the guy that we bought a company, kept it at $4 million forever, because he could control everything. They had one email account, no voicemail, and this was in the modern age. They had one email account, no voicemail, no website, because he wanted to control every aspect of it. And the guy retired with millions. You can make money that way. For me, it's not about the money. It's about building, and with building comes risk. But the cool thing about risk is it's a roller coaster. So you got the risk side, you got the reward side, and so you get the thrill of the other side of it. Any other questions? I think we're over. Yes?
How do you keep the company culture the way you want it as you're growing so fast?
That one I got to get back to you. We're still working on that. So in our problem, it's not the fast growth. It's actually we're geographically dispersed across 10 states.
Right.
So that is becoming a challenge. My vice president of operations, so I finally came up with a vision, and I finally came up with values. And we're working on getting that out. I'm actually hiring a director of HR because I think that's one of our biggest challenges going forward, is doing that. But everything we do is part of our culture. Our use of technology is part of the culture. Our use of policies and procedures, the fact that the president of the company is not sitting there day in and day out. He's on a plane at a conference or an industry day somewhere in the country 3 weeks out of the month, is all part of our culture. So part of the people we hire are people that are not looking for a lot of oversight, including contracts that we take over where the company is very, very involved day to day. And the project manager, I'll stop in because I'm there to support them. Our site lead on the government contract side, I'm not there to oversee them because technically they're supposed to know more than I do about what they're doing. And that's part of our culture. So that culture exists. Do we have where everybody goes to parties? No, but then again, the absence of that is part of the culture. I'm over time, Mr. Moderator.
Oh.
Thank you.